Hey everyone, this is Austin Schur with We Write About Music, and today I'm here with Frankie D'Angelo and Timmy Lydon of the Gelheads. If you haven't listened yet, they've just released a fantastic new EP called Taillights. It was just released on March 12th. Frankie, Timmy, thank you so much for coming on today. How are you doing?
Greetings
Doing
from
great.
Chicago. Thank you.
Yeah,
Good to
thanks so much
hear.
for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously, the first thing I want to talk about is how much I'm loving this EP. There's so many solid sounds going on in it, and I'd love to hear a bit more about your inspirations and what kind of helped to form it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this kind of came. Okay, let's rewind a little bit. So this go back to 2005.
Okay.
We had just gotten done doing a showcase in Los Angeles, actually at the Viper Room. We did a showcase for Island Def Jam, and so they told us right away. I thought we played a really good show. So we came right back from that trip, and they called us and said, "Hey, we like the showcase. We'd like to hear some more songs as soon as you can." Because at the time we had another EP that was out that had 7 songs, and they wanted to hear more. So right away we got a hold of Andy Gerber, Million Yen Studios in Chicago, and we love the work Andy had done with other Chicago heroes like Local H, and Andy had some availability, so we got in right away, and we just kind of went through the songs that we had at the time and picked what we thought were the 3 strongest songs, and threw them down on tape, at the time.
Sure.
So so we got it sent off back to California from Chicago, and didn't quite get the feedback we wanted from the record company at the time. So kind of pressures, little things built up with the band, and we ended up going on a little bit of a hiatus after that. And but here we are, 15 years later.
Yeah.
And Timmy and I started talking, and we said, "Hey, let's write some new songs. Let's release." And we started thinking, we're like, well, man, we never released those other songs. Let's take care of unfinished business. So I called Timmy, and Timmy loved the idea. And so we had Andy look for the songs, and he found them. So we gave them a nice fresh mix, and mastered, and we're really proud of what came out.
Nice. Okay, so these have been sitting around for a while then.
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay, so that was actually, I'll hop forward a little bit, but I was going to say you guys are celebrating, I guess is it your 20th anniversary from what I read?
Yep.
You started in 2001.
Mhm.
So even though there was a break, I'm going to count it. I'm going to say 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I really appreciate you elaborating on the story.
Yeah.
What's been going on in the meantime, and why the resurgence now?
COVID.
You know
Well,
what?
one of the
Solid
things-
answer.
One of the things that we talked a good part of last year was trying to figure out, obviously in the case with Zoom, is how can we be creative, when we're all trapped at home.
Yeah.
And to piggyback on what Frankie said, like we started talking about these songs, like, all right, well, let's start here. So because we've been sending ideas back and forth, different files and whatnot. And like Frankie said, let's finish this part, and then we can look at later for 2021, putting out, maybe a single, maybe another EP, that kind of thing. So, while collect from a recording standpoint, there's a little bit of a gap. Like we'd still got together and we'd done shows and stuff, throughout the Midwest over the last, I'd say 10, 12 years for sure. When everybody's calendars lined up and whatnot. And so from a performance, and the band's still been playing, sporadically, but now that we have the EP out, so once it's safe to do it, we're all definitely looking forward to hopping back in the band and going out and play some shows.
Definitely. That seems like the obvious next step here. So it's not just you guys in the band, right? There are more members.
Yep. Yeah, we have our bassist, Jeff Malice.
Okay.
And we actually have two. Over the years, we've had we've had several guitarists, but Mike Catani was part of the lineup that came in, and he was like the guy for us. And then, Mike had a family, settled down a little bit, which actually most of us we're in that spot now.
Sure.
We brought in another gentleman named Eli, and Eli added a whole other dynamic to the band. So, we're actually kind of looking at going out and doing the Foo Fighters thing. I mean, you can never have too many guitars. So
No.
we're looking at what we do next is to to bring Eli and Mike in to work on some of the new stuff. And if we play live, that'll actually free me up a little bit, because we were originally a trio, and Tim loved being the trio. Tim's a huge fan of the Police. I'm a big fan of Nirvana. I love trios. It's a lot of work to try and carry guitar, carry vocals, and so I like having the extra. It's like a what do you call it, safety net, when you got a couple extra guitars.
It gives you a little break.
Yeah, so
Right.
I fought hard for the trio, but then we both realized we need more power live.
That's a good call. So, well, okay. So, I mean, not that it took me by surprise that these are demos from, I guess, the early 2000s, but I guess lyrically, I want to hear about the context of it. From what you're singing about back then, is it still relevant nowadays? Why was it created? What's it about?
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting, because I was foreshadowing today on like what questions I might get on the on some of the lyrics, and I've been a little bit reflective, and so interestingly, we picked the 3 songs that we had, but when I thought about it today, I'm like, well, the first song is really Little String. It's about ending a relationship, and then the third song on there is Lie Awake, which is about kind of starting a relationship. And the song in the middle, after these messages, is something that the song's about growing up with too much television, and kind of, your parents are at work, being a child of the 70s and late 70s, early 80s, I pre-internet, we had a lot of, everything was on TV. But interestingly, I think about the time period of when we did this record. There were a lot of pressures in the band, and Taillights kind of has a double meaning for us around, first of all, we were on the road a lot at the time. So I thought of, the taillights of being in a van on the road, but I'd left Chicago to come back to Michigan in the same type of van that we rented to go on tour. So that record at the time kind of also represented that, the taillights of leaving Chicago, which is kind of represented in the art. But lyrically, when I think about it, it's like the beginning and the end. And like now it's a new beginning for us, somewhat, as we're starting to work on new material already. But it's different. I'm in a different spot now. I'd say, like I wrote a lot about relationships and stages of life in some of our songs back from the early 2000s. And now I have a 1 and a 3-year-old. I'm happily married. So I'm trying to go to the different wells to inspire, to find a new direction of things to talk about. Obviously, at a different spot in life, you find different things. You just got to find where to be inspired by.
That's completely reasonable.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't want to look too towards the future at this point, but you did say that there might be more music in the works. Is what you're creating now indicative of future sound, or are we going to see a little bit of experimentation?
I think a little A, a little B.
Okay.
We've, we definitely have the ideas we sent back and forth. Some stuff's really mellow, some stuff is acoustic based, and then we've been writing stuff that's from a tempo, and even I would say even from an aggression standpoint, it's probably some of the fastest stuff that we've ever tried to write. So it'll be interesting once we get in, like, try to balance. Okay, where do we want to take? Essentially, put maybe like a 10-song record. Do like I always looked at AC/DC's Back in Black. It's like the gold standard. Like 10 songs, all killer, no filler.
Right.
Kind of want to do, look at that spot, especially if we get a chance to maybe put out a vinyl release, which ultimately for Frankie to be both of us being major vinyl nuts, that would be a huge bucket list thing for us to issue out, like a full record.
That would be huge.
Yeah, I think the other thing, Austin, too, is that I look back at the pressure we had back when we were writing and recording before.
Sure.
We were so focused on trying to get the big record deal, and we were in a different spot as a band. And I think now there's less pressure, because really the industry is completely to the point now where you really, if you have the right stuff, you don't need distribution to the level that, I mean, we're not trying to be this huge, I mean, hey, everyone would love to be a huge band, but what we're trying to do, what we're trying to put out, I don't think there's that pressure on, well, you got to sound more like this. And because we were getting that from the labels. Well, you guys sound like the Foo Fighters. We already have a Foo Fighters. You guys need to cut your hair shorter and wear skinny ties and get a keyboard player and, pretty much, get a didgeridoo, everything, and, but, it's kind of refresh. I mean, it was nice to be courted and have that, be at that status at the time, but it's also refreshing to kind of have a clean slate and say, hey, let's do what we love to do because we love to do it. And just by that merit, if 5 people hear it, great. If 500 people, 5,000, whatever, but we just want to get out and put out that music that's like been in here for so long.
Absolutely. And I say this often, it's like, if you're making music for other people, if you're trying to craft a sound that, includes a didgeridoo, which could be cool, but ultimately you're not doing it for yourself.
Exactly.
And if you're not happy with what you're making, what's the point? I mean,
Mhm.
something that you could have pursued back then and whatever, but it seems like you're in a different part of your life now, and obviously the perspective is different on what you're doing.
Yeah.
So as far as artists and like albums in your life that inspired you to take this path as musicians, what would they be? Like, who were you sort of either trying to not necessarily emulate, but who inspired the path?
Yeah. How long is this interview? Because we might.
As long as you want.
Yeah, no, because Tim and I think that's why Tim and I connect so much musically, is we both have such a diverse taste, but we love the same things too. And there's so many artists we connect on. I don't want to speak for Tim, but like for me, the first record that turned me on to music was Rock and Roll Over by Kiss. My cousin introduced me to Kiss while she was babysitting me. And
what a great babysitter.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, they were like comic book heroes, but they played music. And so I mean, it's no wonder so many kids love them. But I just heard this guitar over the record and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And so I love that. But over the years, I mean, like so much stuff from the 90s. I mean, even like the Police, Nirvana was a huge, the Foo Fighters, just to me, it's like all about good songs and melody. Right. And not too much structure, just the right amount of rawness. But other things I think about, like early Goo Goo Dolls, the Replacements, a lot of that kind of post-punk that still had that edge to it, but had melody to it. And that's this kind of stuff I always latched onto. I'll let Timmy talk a little bit.
Please.
To piggyback on what he said, when Frankie gave me his demo, when I was playing in a different band, right when this all started for us, he's like, I was playing in a band with a guy he worked with. So he comes to the show on a Tuesday night, and after we finished the show, he's like, dude, you got to be in my band. And he gives me his demo. So I go home, I'm like, this is what I want to play. It had, you can hear, they had big riffs, they had a Kiss out with this, but it had a lot of melody. You could latch onto it. So once we got in a room and started talking, it was like, oh my God, did we just become best friends? And here we are 20 years later, very much we did.
That's awesome.
But from a music standpoint, he was the only guy in town who loved the Replacements and the old Goo Goo Doll stuff, and then loved, Kiss like I did. I'm like, we got to do something with this. But from my end, being a drummer, it was always weird. Like, people always were turned off by a drummer playing guitar, coming up with melody. So when we first got together, and Frankie also had a little bit of drum background, we could trade ideas left and right, and we still do today. But for me, I mean, when we were in the band, it's like always incorporating different things we might have been listening to at the time. Like I think we were the only band in the world to try and pull off, like, we would throw in random covers sometimes in our shows, and we span the gamut from really early Goo Goo Dolls songs to even doing, The Trooper by Iron Maiden one time at Christmas time, and had a friend of come up with this idea from Iron Maiden, and tossing out gifts to the kids. So we always try to do something a little bit fun like that. So in terms of influences in our band, we go from the melodic, to the even proggy, almost even getting into me being growing up. I went through stupid Rush phase. So
you don't need to grow out of that either. That never stops.
Don't tell our bass player that. But musically, like we've always looked for, we always look for trying to put in the hook somewhere, whether it was in a vocal line, a guitar part, wherever, something that somebody goes, wait, do that again. Because usually when somebody in the band's doing that, like that's usually how our songs have, always revolved on. We never spent a lot of time, in terms of ideas, like, trying to rehash something over more than I would say two or three rehearsals. Because at that point, if it's not clicking, then we'll just put it off to the wayside, track it, and then maybe come back later on and maybe we have another part to put to that.
Right. That's actually a perfect segue to my next question here. I want to hear about you guys' process. How do you go about creating a Gelhead song? What goes into it?
Lots of text messages go, dude, I got an idea. That's usually how it starts, and then it's building on a riff, and then
Sure.
and then looking for, okay, like what's the melody? Frankie usually have like a melody, and then like, okay, well then, either myself or Eli will come in with a part. Most of our songs, like especially the last time we really sat down to write, came together really quickly, because over the course of maybe having one of myself or Eli go home late that night after rehearsal, and also like, hey, I got something here, and the next day, like, oh my God, let's put this together, and that hasn't really changed. Eli's got a flash for him because he was a leader in his own band before, so he's really great with songwriting. But in terms of musically layering, different guitar parts together, that we never would have. What comes in and going, hey, I think I got a full song, and then you go, by the time it's all said and done, you're like, sounds like nothing I did, but so much better.
But it's a song, and it's complete.
Yeah, it's a fluid collaborative process, and sometimes it can be different. Sometimes, I'll sit down and write something in 20 minutes. Other times I'll run something past Tim. I'll be like, hey, I don't know where to go with this. And Tim will be like, I hear, or Tim will even, like a couple weeks ago, Tim sent me a guitar thing and I took it in a different direction. But sometimes it's nice not to start with a clean slate. Someone else gives you an idea and you take it and interpret it. And that's been I think it's going to be tough recording the next record, because we've already got so much stuff to pick from, and we actually have a couple older songs in our catalog that never got the proper recording. There's a song called Gravity to Fall that was a crowd favorite, and we always close our show with it, but when we look back at the recording of it, it still has kind of that demo quality, so that's definitely going to be on the next record. So
nice. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with kind of mixing the old with the new, as long as it has a cohesive sound from start to finish.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in that situation, whether either you're at work or you're out and about and an idea pops into your head? How would you go about dealing with it?
I'm glad my wife is not in this room to hear this. Listen,
she might be watching after. So.
I've been notorious for always tapping on something. She's like, because she even actually told me just over the weekend, she's like, there is always music up, and she's like pointing to my, there's always music up there, isn't there? I'm like, yep, because I'll start humming, and I'll get out my phone and start just humming a melody on my phone app, and just to document it, or thanks to COVID being trapped at home, all of a sudden, like, I'll spring up at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night and, get my guitar. My wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I got to get this on tape. And she's just rolling her eyes. And just,
it'll be lost forever. If it's not.
Yeah. Luckily for me, the whole work from home thing has been awesome, because my guitar, I'm looking at it right now, it's about 12 feet from my desk where I work. So, in between meetings, or, sometimes you're on meetings where you're not really participating. No, I never do that. No, no, but
we're all guilty.
Yeah, you get an idea, and a lot of time I have a mic set up, and I'll track something real quick, and then I'll send it over to Tim on Facebook Messenger, and if I don't hear back from Tim right away, I'm like, okay, I'll send him another one. But a lot of times I'll get just all caps, dude, exclamation point. That's when I know, all right, here's another one to put on the list.
There you go. It's better to have too much than not enough.
Yeah.
You're not strapped for ideas.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me this, and it might be a story from, I guess, the early 2000s when you guys were really going with it. But what do you enjoy the most about being an artist? What was a moment, I guess, when you were performing regularly that said, this was the right move on my part?
I think for me, when we were starting to play really big shows, I would say like late 2000, 2002, 2003, we were starting to get put on bills with national bands, and a lot of them were just getting signed to major labels, and we were like the local band that got thrown on the bills. So
Sure.
a couple shows where we actually, outdrew the headliner, and it kind of came down to a make or break point for both of us. For Frankie and I, like, we got to take the plunge. We just got to quit our jobs and then invest all into it. And when it all happened, the day that I quit my job, that was my last day of my job. I was working for an investment bank of all places. No one believed me that we were flying out to Los Angeles that night to record our Stars Motel record, and I had to literally show them the plane tickets. And being the awe of everybody, we get out there later that night and we start doing all the pre-production, and we spent 4 or 5 days out there.
Yeah.
And we recorded 4 blocks from Anaheim Stadium, which for us being, fans of big stadium shows, because we put the vibe of that in Southern California into the record.
Of course.
We basically came back to home. Everybody had salary jobs and health insurance. We were all making like, $10 an hour in a mom and pop drum shop in my case. But it was when we started getting put on really big shows here later that summer where we kind of looked at the other one. We did the right idea. And then we heard the first mix of Stars Motel. We just kind of looked at each other and went, I don't know what's going to happen, but something's going to happen here.
Yeah. I think for me, there are a couple of things come to mind. One of our first, we got booked on a stadium show at was Eastern Illinois University. I think it was Eastern Illinois, EIU, with Everclear.
And,
nice. So they were super stoked to have us and treated us like royalty. But that was really the first show where the house lights went down, and they led Tim and Jeff and I up on stage with flashlights. And when the lights went down, there was just that roar, and we're like, all right, this is it. We've arrived. This is what we've, I know I've done the right thing. I've played our crappy Tuesday night club gigs, begging our family to come out. And, this is, we're here with this organic crowd. I think the other thing for me was, growing up such a Kiss fan, our manager at the time, Kenny Livingston, he was actually the drummer for a band, Sugar Cult, a popular band early 2000s as well. Timmy, as a joke, I told Kenny, I said, hey, Gene Simmons relaunched his record label. Just send our record to Gene Simmons just for the hell of it. Just do it. And so a couple weeks later, Kenny calls us and says, dudes, you guys aren't going to believe this. Listen. And he played a message on his phone, and it was, Kenny, this is Gene Simmons. I received the demo you sent me, The Enemy. It's a very good song. Rest of the record didn't do much for me, but send me more songs if they're good, like The Enemy. Click. And I'm like, all right, well, he said that 12% of our, 20% of our record was good. Hey, I'll take that.
Better than zero, right? That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So that never, nothing ever else came of that, but we at least got that call. And I wish we had it on, saved somewhere, but it's up in the ether somewhere.
I'll take your word for it. That's really cool. Honestly, there has to be very few things in life that you could compare to an adrenaline rush of a black stage and a crowd roaring, especially when you've worked so hard to get there. I can't even imagine. Super cool. You guys will get there again, though. I'm sure it'll happen. And so, you mentioned a little bit of a possible tour this year, and I know that shows, thankfully, are starting to get scheduled. Is there anything on the calendar or anything, possibly definitive in the coming months?
Yeah, nothing definitive. I mean, we have reached out to some bigger festivals that we've played in the past. We have some other friends that are planning some tours of like the Midwest and East Coast that said they may be interested in having us hop on some dates. So, there's definitely some things in the works. I would absolutely, if I were a betting man, I'd bet on a couple of shows at least before the end of the year.
Awesome.
So. But nothing on paper yet. But the minute there is, it'll be on our website and all of our social media.
It'll happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice. Besides that, though, what are some goals, musical or not, that you've set for yourself for 2021?
First thing was getting the EP out of our old stuff, and then
Right.
kind of having going, okay, we got this done, and the response we've gotten to it really, it was, I think I can speak on behalf of everybody in the band. It kind of took us all by surprise, just how fast and how sudden people have reacted to it. It's been fantastic.
Right.
And it's motivated us to more going, okay, like we need to, once everybody's vaccinated, we're gonna get in a room and start fleshing out some ideas, and hopefully I'm hoping by July or August we can start recording, and by the end of the year we'll have at least 1 or 2 new songs up online, and and we can do like a proper 20th anniversary show in Chicago, and as well as in Detroit, which is, Frankie being from there, it's been our home away from home. There's a reason I've told in Chicago, and at least being a sports fan, Detroit and Chicago, kind of like the Red Sox, Yankees, on some teams, like sometimes don't kind of get along. So I've had to kind of be like the brand ambassador for the city of Detroit as a musician, going, you have to go up there. The place is amazing. The people are resilient, and they are true rock and roll fans. And there's a reason why a song like Detroit Rock City exists.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've only got a couple more for you here. I want to know, what is bringing you joy in the world apart from making music?
I'll let you go, Frankie.
I'll tell you, my family, I've got a 3-year-old daughter and a 1.5-year-old daughter, and they amaze me every day. With well, especially the 3-year-old, with the things she says, and it's like entertainment, and in-house entertainment every day. They bring me joy. They love to sing. We're always singing together, and my wife too. My wife, she plays a little bit of guitar and sings. So just seeing, we've all helped each other get through the last year. Spent a lot of time at home together. Not always easy, but it definitely helped each other. We all helped each other get through it. So
nice.
Yeah. So for me, it's been family as well. I have a 9-year-old stepson, and he's just taking more of an interest in drumming. So we've got him set up on lessons twice a week, and then after he's done, we'll get in the room and I'll make sure that he understands what he's playing. And but then all of a sudden, like, he'll start walking around the house, just start humming songs, randomly. Like one of the songs that he had to first learn, on a full drum kit was Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes. And that was 6 months ago. And he could play the whole song through, and it's great. And I've been working with this technique. But then, like, when you're in a car somewhere, like we were this weekend, all of a sudden in the backseat, all of a sudden here's do 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 do. It just starts cracking you up. But music in our house has been the thing that's gotten us through, through everything, as well as my wife's a personal trainer, so we've been, trying to keep everybody active. But it's been, it's try to keep everybody positive. And my wife,
right,
been a comedian in a past life, because she cracks everybody up in this house on a daily basis, and humor has definitely gotten us through the past year. And watching little discoveries from, like Frankie said, with your kids, like it never ceases to amaze you, like what curveballs might get thrown at you, but in a beautiful way. So that's, for us, I think for everybody in the band, it's been family for sure.
Awesome. Okay, last thing here. For those who are going to listen to your music for the first time, what message would you like to pass off to the future listener?
Wow. That's a great question. We hope our main goal with our songs is that you either connect to the melody or the words, and it makes you feel something, because that's, I think, why we do it. Our music's an interpretation of something inside, and when someone else connects with that on either a level of it speaks to them, of either something they've experienced or they're going through, I mean, that's the greatest compliment and in the world to me.
Nice.
Yeah.
What about you, Tim?
So Frankie gives the more, I would a more heartfelt answer. Me, I'd probably answer like a 12-year-old kid listening to, classic rock bands for the first time, going like, when they hear some of the stuff we, do, whether it's guitar riff or, or a drum lick or something, like, they can pop on that phone. They're going, wait, they're rewinding everything back, going, how did this guy do that? I said, that for me, in terms of, when you listen to what we do, it's a part of, like Frank, the part of us, but there's the little kid in you that, always wants to do the cool things you learned when you were, 12, 13 years old, figuring out your instrument and trying to, copy, every Alex Van Halen, drum lick, or, every Ace Frehley lick. Like it's for us, it's, for those who came before us, it's like you want to honor that, and then you put your own spin on it, and then, give it out to the world, and hopefully people are interested in it.
That's, ultimately that has to be the goal.
Yeah. And also, if you just want to listen to our music and rock and have a good time, and then there's that too. So, it's all about fun.
I think that's the main message as well.
Right.
Get your ears on it, get listening.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I'm really excited to see what comes next from you. And again, for everyone, Taillights is out now. You can listen to it on all the streaming platforms, I assume. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your year. Look forward to speaking soon.
Hey, thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. Have a great rest of your night.
You too. Right. Thanks again, man.
Yeah.